the election. So then I'm opening it up to you. 40 seconds. Where's that bottle come from?
Just peeled out of nowhere.
Today we'll be talking all things politics as we look to the upcoming December election. The campaigns have already got off to a shaky start, but is this actually having an impact on younger voters? I'm joined by students Izzy Aston and Scott John to hear their views on the importance of the youth vote. Welcome to Weekly Update. After Boris Johnson failed to secure a deal with the European Union by October the 31st, the EU granted a further extension until February for the government to secure a deal. When Theresa May lost her majority in the House of Commons following her snap election in 2017, Mr Johnson was unable to pass his pledge from the Tory leadership contest of getting Britain out of the EU by Halloween, do or die. After multiple calls for a general election with no agreement from the other parties, they eventually agreed, and a general election was called for December the 12th. This does, however, mean that the focus of this election is on Brexit and the different parties' policies on it, talking less about their general stances on things and focusing on leaving the EU. Some hardline Brexiteers are pushing for a hard or no-deal Brexit, whilst on the other side you have those wishing to disregard the outcome of the 2016 referendum and the decision that was made by 33.5 million people who voted. This has become the crux of political conflict, with many people calling for more of a focus on social and health change and a stronger focus on the environment. No longer is the contest between two main political parties either. In recent years, the Conservatives and Labour have been the two major parties contending, but more recently, minor parties have been gaining significant attention, with creating a stronger impact on British politics. The last election included more minority parties in the televised debates, which has led to this year the Liberal Democrats raising a legal challenge to ITN, which has been overturned regarding themselves and the SNP not being included in the upcoming ITV debate. The increase in minor party politics is showing the change in voter mood and response to major politics. Will Mr Johnson be able to gain a majority? Will he stay as Prime Minister? Or will he be looking at the government from the other side of the dispatch box? It is down to you to decide. Current polls are predicting a Tory win, but as we know, results could turn out quite different to the forecasts.
Welcome to the House of Commons chamber, the cauldron of parliamentary democracy. But who is going to be sitting on these green benches after the general election? Prime Minister! And who will find themselves here as Prime Minister, standing at this dispatch box? A gift from New Zealand, no less. Following in the footsteps of every Prime Minister since Clement Attlee stood here in 1950 after the Commons chamber was rebuilt following the bombings in the Second World War. Will Boris Johnson be back as Prime Minister, or with our fourth PM in as many years? Will Jeremy Corbyn suddenly find himself standing here running the country? And who will be at the official opposition's dispatch box facing them across the Commons chamber? If either leader of the main parties fails to win, can they survive? Or, given the volatility of politics at the moment, could another party suddenly emerge as the official opposition? So let's talk numbers. There are 650 MPs, or there's actually only room for 400 of them to sit in here at any one time. To get a majority, half of 650 is 325. So in theory, 326 is the number you need for an overall Commons majority. However, it's not as simple as that. The Commons Speaker doesn't vote. Order! Nor do the Deputy Speakers. Sinn Féin traditionally don't take their seats. They won 7 seats in 2017. That means that last time round, the government only needed 320 to command a majority in the House of Commons. the outcome of the election is hard to predict. This is what the latest polls are showing. If you use electoral calculus to try and work out what the new House of Commons might look like, this is what you get. But I take it with a pinch of salt. The impact of smaller parties will be different in different parts of the country, which makes it even harder to predict what might actually happen. The big problem is that politics is no longer split on left and right. It's divided by Remain and Leave, and so using polls to predict the outcome is incredibly hard. If no one party commands an overall majority, they'll have to rely on some of the smaller parties to get over that halfway mark. In 2010, the Conservatives struck a full-blown coalition with the Lib Dems, which meant they sat on the government benches and took cabinet jobs as well. In 2017, when the Tories fell short of an overall majority, they formed what's called a confidence and supply agreement with the DUP, who stayed sitting on this side but agreed to support the government in key votes. Whatever happens on election night, all eyes will be back on the Commons chamber to see if the new makeup of Parliament can find a way through Brexit, which has so far eluded them.
Well, let's have a look at some of the different policies and what they've said in the manifestos of the different parties. So we had a look at the major parties, and we were talking about how the increase in minor parties' significance is coming through as well. So what the Conservatives are saying, led by Boris Johnson, of course, the Prime Minister at the moment. So he is saying that he wants to deliver Brexit on the deal agreed with the EU. So he wants to get that done February, which is the extension we've been given. £100 billion investment over 5 years on roads and highways in the UK. 20,000 more police officers over the next 3 years in England and Wales, which is something he's actually already started implementing. £2.7 billion for 6 new hospitals and plans for 34 more. And last point here, £7.1 billion a year more for schools in England by 2023. So it's a lot of financial significance that we've got there for that. What do you think, for example, on the police officers? A lot of things with knife crime in London and that have happened recently. Do you think it's, Izzy, what do you think about having 20,000 more police officers?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's needed?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think they were talking about doing stops as well, stop searches. I think that's quite a good idea.
That's good.
Yeah.
How about you, Scott?
Quite an interesting point. I mean, the thing is you look at those, what was it, 30,000 new police officers?
20,000.
20,000, still a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money that could be put into other areas where the government is maybe falling down slightly. I'm very into politics myself, very interested in looking up at all these different things that need doing. Like, there's so much stuff that needs doing right now. You mentioned roads and stuff. So much more of that money could go into the roads, NHS, all the schools and stuff like that. All of that stuff that needs to be doing. I mean, is that going to solve knife crime?
I mean, I think knife crime's a bit more important than roads.
The schooling.
Personally.
I mean, maybe more education as to why people do knife crime.
I get that point, but the road
it starts at
point,
the youth.
shaky.
Roads. I mean, there could be a little bit of roads.
Well, okay, let's have a look at what Labour are saying.
Yeah.
So they want to invest £150 billion for schools, hospitals and housing. So that's less of a focus, whereas the Conservatives have broken it down and we're giving more there. We've got that combined. They also want to invest £250 billion to instigate a green industrial revolution. Do you think it's important? There's the rise of Extinction Rebellion, recently. Is it important for the government to be focusing more, these parties, on environmental change? Do you think so?
Yeah. I'd have to agree with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, important to an extent.
Because a lot of people are saying that it's a waste of money for
250 billion.
governments. And what is that going to do? £250. How can they invest that into the environment, do you think?
£250 billion is a lot.
Different laws, I guess, put different laws in place.
Yeah, but are they going to need 250 billion? Again, it could be something to do with more education, and the knife crime and stuff like that. It could all go into that because 250 billion is a lot of money, to put into environmental stuff, which could go wrong. We don't know about environmental
I mean, I think the
impacts at the
environment's
moment.
quite important.
It's quite important. We don't know much about it. We don't know what's impact that can have.
So money to research.
Yeah, is that going to? But do we need it? Is that what we need?
Absolutely, it's our environment.
But there's not enough research done into whether it actually impacts us at the
So
moment.
do more research, help the environment.
But there's too much money spent. Like, we could do more. We could do more for the government, I think, for that.
The government won't be here if we've got no environment, hun.
The government will still be here.
Well, if we've got no environment, the government won't be
Yeah.
here. Well, none of us
The
will be here.
environment will be there.
Environment is
The
very
environment will be
important, in
fine,
my
but
opinion.
not that much.
Anyway, okay, let's have a look. We've got a tweet here which someone has sent in. So, are Labour and the Conservatives too big that the other parties, such as the Lib Dems, can't compete? Do you think that it's a lot, I don't know how much you've seen in the media, but do you think it's a lot of the two major parties competing and there's not much? I mean, there was that point that I raised about the Lib Dems tried to challenge this ITV only wanted debate between the Conservatives and Labour, and the Lib Dems and SNP saying they want to be involved in that. Do you think that they have a right to be more involved?
I think it's important nowadays to have that sort of, you know, diversity amongst opinions. I mean, maybe a little bit more old-fashioned with just the standard two, I'm not sure, but no, I think, yeah, definitely have a variety of opinions, a variety of viewpoints. I think it's very important.
I think the other two cover it, basically.
You think so,
They
yeah?
give good coverage.
No way.
No.
No way. No way. You need more. You need more of that. You look at the Brexit party, you know, look at Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
Very, very strong, very, very, you know, potent party. Very, very interesting. And it just brings that other side that you don't get. Maybe they're a little bit more.
Because you don't want. But,
You do need them. You do need them. Otherwise, you don't have that diversity. You won't have it.
Okay.
Nothing will be done. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you've got different viewpoints and stuff. It just makes more sense.
Yeah, imagine having different viewpoints.
Different viewpoints is very interesting indeed.
Well, okay, let's have a talk about your views on politics in general then, because I understand that you don't, Izzy, you don't have much of an interest in what's going on.
I just think that it's a lot of lies, to be honest. I think all the politicians try and tell you what you want to hear. Do they ever follow through with it? Not really, so why am I going to pay my attention? They're going to do what they're going to do, aren't they? It's probably rigged anyway, so...
He says
Yeah.
it's rigged. I mean, rigged politics is such a big part of our lives, you know. It's our future.
Oh, we love gullible people.
Well, that's what it is, though. You know, you say that they don't do anything, but do you ever see what they do? Do you ever look into that? I mean, I don't. You know, I'm very interested in what they do. I'm very interested in seeing how what they promise turns into what actually comes out in the outcome. But
When does that happen?
all the time, every single time. Look at the most recent debate that we've had about it. It's very, you know, the stuff that goes on in the background. The people that don't have a clue about politics, quite frankly, are
So you're
quite
saying
hopeless.
this, but do you have any, like, what's your evidence?
My evidence
What-
it's a very good point. I mean, the evidence for that is lots of different. You know, you said with the schools.
Yeah.
You know, lots of money being put into schools, education system.
I mean, a Labour MP was on Good Morning Britain and he was talking about what their policy was on Brexit. And then once this campaign started a few weeks ago, the Conservatives released an re-edited version of that discussion, that interview on Good Morning Britain, saying that Labour didn't have a policy on Brexit. Do you think that this is false news? Do you, like you're saying, they're telling lies? Do you think
Yeah.
this is exactly the point?
Yeah, exactly my point. That evidence.
But you'll fall for it. That's the thing. Like people will.
No, you're falling for it.
I may fall for it in some areas. That is true, but it's not the way it is. That's why you have a variety of parties. There's a different variety of viewpoints. You know, we're not focusing on one. We're focusing on taking little bits of everyone and trying to.
But what are
form-
you actually focusing on? Because they're all telling you what you want to hear. They never follow through with it. So.
Well, that's the thing. They'll tell you what they want to hear, so you can. You
Oh,
know,
so you can-
vote.
you know, you get
we
them in,
vote.
you
No,
vote.
you get them and you vote. But then that's the thing. That they'll then mould that into some sort of a plan of what they're going to do. They do, you know, put things into action. You won't see it because you, quite frankly, don't know what's going on. You don't look at stuff. You know, you're not
It's not
interested.
gullible.
Just hopeless with politics. Like you've
Well,
got to actually be
okay.
interested.
Well, some of you at home, well, no, lots of people will be wanting to go out and register, you know, and of course there are some of you that don't as well. So we can have a look at how you can go about that. So initially, what you can do, if you want to vote and you haven't registered, you can go onto the government website and you can apply to the Electoral Commission. All you need to know is your national insurance number, and you put in your address, and that will register you at your local polling station. So you can vote there in the election. I haven't got the date here for when the deadline for that is. But then you may not be able to be there. So you can either vote by proxy, so you can get someone else to go in for you on the day. You have to register for that as well online, and they will do the vote on your behalf. Or you can do a postal vote, which is something you send off beforehand. You make your choice in the post and send it off to them. So there's a variety of different choices. Quickly, are you going to be voting, both of you, in the election?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
No.
I think it's
Yeah.
very important. People died to vote, to let us vote. People died to let us vote, and it's very important that we do it. You know, we can have an impact on the future. We can have our decisions. You know, our voices be heard. I mean, if we had it your way, it would be everyone just do whatever you want. Really, would that be the way it would be? Just do whatever you like, have a bit of fun. really? Is that the way? Because I think voting is very important. I do. I think it's not a laughing
Do
matter.
you think there's going to be a big turnout for this election? Because there's been a lot of people that haven't voted before that could have made a change.
There should be. There should be.
Might you
We'll
let this
see.
guy run the country?
I'd be brilliant. I'd be fantastic.
Oh, right. Well, we'll see we'll see what happens. Well, that's all we've got time for today. So it was good to hear your input, guys. Thank you very much for that. So we've had a look at what the Conservatives and Labour, some of their points, and also we spoke a bit about the Brexit Party as well. It's nice to hear, what people who don't have an interest in politics think about things, and also, Scott, you've got a strong interest and you think people should vote as well. So we've got both sides of the spectrum there, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Is Boris Johnson going to be able to become Prime Minister, or is it going to go to Corbyn, or maybe Jo Swinson? Depends what happens. We'll see. Thank you very much.